Let's talk now about setting goals. Of all the things that really helped transform my life, when I was 25 years old and met my mentor, that original mentor, Mr. Earl Schoaf, goal setting really did wonders for me. The subject came up when Mr. Schoaf said to me, Mr. Rohn, let me see your current list of goals. And he said, let's go over them. He said, I've got some experience, and let's talk about it. Maybe I can give you some help. And I said to him, I don't have a list. He said, wow. If you don't have a list of your goals, he said, I can probably guess your bank account within a few $100s, which he did. And that got my attention. So here was my response. You mean to tell me if I had a list of my goals, it would make a difference in my bank account? He said, a drastic difference. So that got my attention. I thought, well, I've got to learn how to set goals. And when I learned it, it changed my life forever. Now I've been teaching it now all these years, trying to help people get a better vision of the future. Okay, so make this note. The future is where we're going. You know, the past is where we've been, the present is where we are, and the future is where we're going. And if we can capture this moment in time from our past to now, and then from now to a future more well-designed, with better objectives and better purpose for ourselves, our family, our business, our investments, everything else, then this moment in time will have become extremely valuable. So let me give you first what really affects us all. Number one, we're affected by the environment in which we live. We're affected by the physical environment. I was challenged way back in those early days, why not make the environment better everywhere you go? I learned, Mama taught, turn off the lights when you check out of your hotel, and you leave the room before you leave, turn out the lights. And I thought, why do that? And here's what she said, to make a contribution that's so easy. Wow. And if you could make a contribution that is so easy, that didn't cost you any money, and didn't cost you any time, didn't cost you a piece of your life, why not make the contribution that's easy? Because if everybody did it, think of how much we would conserve. Someone says, well, yes, but the hotel benefits if you turn out all the lights. And here's the answer that sophisticated people always have. Who cares who benefits? If it benefits the hotel and if everybody did it, probably the cost of the hotel room would come down. So every benefit you can give, every benefit you can share, because here's what happens. If you learn to give, you will what? Receive. Maybe not in the manner in which you gave, maybe not in like kind. Someone will save energy for you because you saved energy for them. But in some mysterious ways, it always comes back to us. If you give, you will receive. In fact, here's what it says, that for the uneducated is a little bit strange. It says it's better to give than it is to receive. Now see, if you didn't understand, you would say, that doesn't quite make sense. Surely it would be better to receive than to give, and the answer is no. It is much better to give than to receive. And here's why. It's what we call having intelligent self-interest. Nothing wrong with self-interest as long as you do it the intelligent way. Here's the key. Giving, it's better to give than it is to receive because giving starts the receiving process. So to act intelligently in your own self-interest, which is good, it's much better to give than it is to receive. Because if all you do is receive, that may be very limited. But if you give, and giving starts the receiving process coming your way from unknown resources and from unknown places. Back it comes around to you because you became a giver. That's one of the unique mysteries of life. We give to receive, and it's better to give than it is to receive. So that's what Mama said. Turn out the lights, make a contribution. Why not make the easy ones? Here's what else. We talked about it at our lunch break today to those who were there. It raises your self-esteem, plus your self-respect, that you do things that the average person doesn't do. Maybe if they were taught, they would. Maybe if somebody mentioned it, they would. But it's easy for most everybody to just go on their way, and if they're not interrupted by a good idea that says, hey, it's so easy to make a contribution, this one would be easy. Turn out the lights when you leave the hotel room and make a contribution. That's interesting. Next is the phrase, in terms of environment, always leave something better than you found it. I talked to a man one time who rented out a long list of apartments. And he said, Mr. Rohn, you wouldn't believe it, but when somebody rents an apartment, they usually leave it worse than when they rented it. I said, you've got to be kidding. He said, no. A high percentage of people leave it trashed. If they stay 6 months or stay 1 year, they leave it trashed. Not just not better, but trashed. I said, that's impossible. Why would anyone do that? Mama said to me, no, leave it what? Better than you found it. See, that's just a commitment to your own self-esteem. And why not do it if it makes a contribution to your self-esteem? It's called intelligent self-interest. Intelligent self-interest. Self-interest says, I wish to be ruler over many. And intelligent self-interest says, I understand how to do that. Be faithful when the amounts are small. If you'll take care of the few, we will someday give you a position of very high importance over many. But if you don't be disciplined when the amounts are small, why would we trust you when the amounts are large? Brian mentioned that earlier. Why would life give you a fortune to manage if you couldn't manage the gifts of a few? Interesting philosophy to consider, okay? Your own self-interest. Leave the contribution. I'm even aware of it when I leave a restaurant and I get me a toothpick, right? And you take off the little cellophane off the toothpick. It's easy to throw it by the cash register, right, or somewhere where it looks like other people have done the same. Mama said, put it in your pocket. Somebody says, wow, a little piece of cellophane, what difference does it make? It doesn't make that much difference, only in your self-respect. Take your trash home and deposit it. How much does it cost to clean up the trash on the highways in America? Mega millions. Wouldn't people take home their own trash and deposit it there rather than scatter it on the highways across America? And the answer is most people do not. It's so easy to throw it out the window. But now, add this, it's so easy to keep it in your car and have a few more points in your favor on self-esteem, feeling good about yourself, doing things that most people don't do. If everybody did it, what a different country we would have. But it doesn't really matter. You say, well, if everybody's going to do it, why shouldn't I do it? And the answer is for your own dignity and for your own self-esteem. You do things that most other people allow themselves to do that you don't do. And so when I talk about the environment, now we're affected by the political environment and the social environment, and we're affected by the economy environment. All of us are persuaded in one way or another to live like we live. Here's a good word to jot down: association. Be very careful of your associations. We're going to talk a little later about financial independence and, caring for your resources. Here's what we've discovered. People that are around people that spend all they make, chances are excellent, what? They spend all they make. It's just part of that association. Once you're sort of in it, you sort of do what everyone else does. So here's the key to association. Number one is limited association. Some people you can spend, a few hours with, but not a few days. Some you can spend a few days, but not a lifetime. Some you can spend a little time, but not a lot of time. Limit your associations because of the influence. All of us have to be around people, that have a variety of their own, beliefs and what they do that influences us or, is there. It's in our presence wherever we go. But here's the whole key. Some of it's limited association. Here's the next one. This one is kind of severe, and that is discontinue association. Sometimes you have to say in an association, is it causing me more harm than good? And sometimes the time finally comes where you have to part ways, just because the association is not to your benefit, for the rest of your life. And then here's the one you've engaged in this weekend: expanded association. Get around people who have good ideas to share. Get around people who have a good story to share. One of the great benefits of being here this weekend is a chance for all of you to meet each other. Share testimonials, share ideas, share your reactions to what's been taught, to the ideas that's been presented. Share some common experiences you might have had in your life, and you go home with this bag full of testimonials and the inspiration that comes from it. This kind of expanded association is so valuable. Whenever there's an occasion, and it can fit into your schedule of time and money, make sure you go where there are people of like interest, right? Ready for good ideas. Never, too successful to learn some more. This is good environment. Expanded association. Next, we're affected by events, dramatic events or worldwide events or home events or personal events. Some events affect us all. Do any of you remember the missile crisis? Hey, there's a few of us go back that far, right? Come on. Do I have a little company here? Anybody remember the missile crisis? Okay, I got a little company here. Khrushchev has his missiles on the way to Cuba. John Kennedy finds out about it and calls and says, "Mr. Chairman of the Communist Party, Russia, you cannot put your missiles in Cuba." And Khrushchev says, "Young Mr. President, you don't understand. This is Nikita Khrushchev. And we are the Soviet Union, and we will put our missiles wherever we please." And that started an incredible crisis known as the missile crisis. John Kennedy said, "Mr. Khrushchev, listen carefully. You can't put your missiles 90 miles from Florida." And Mr. Khrushchev said, "Well, Mr. President, I hate to inform you, but the missiles are already on the way." And John Kennedy said, "Mr. Khrushchev, we will not let those missiles arrive." Next conversation. Nikita Khrushchev says, "Mr. President, you don't understand. If you touch those missiles that are on the way, it means war." Last conversation. John Kennedy calls, says, "Mr. Khrushchev, I must inform you, sir, in all seriousness. If it is war, Russia will cease to exist." That's a heck of a conversation, isn't it? And Dean Rusk of the State Department at the time, I think, put it well, said, Kennedy and Khrushchev were staring each other down, and fortunately for all of us, Khrushchev blinked and finally agreed to turn around and take his missiles back home. And the world breathed easier. Back then, some of you might remember, we were digging bomb shelters in our backyards, right? This whole thing about atomic war finally became a reality, and we were saying, wow, surely not, for the sake of our children and our grandchildren. And I'm sure that the Russian officials and Soviet Union officials and Nikita Khrushchev finally decided, for the sake of their children and their grandchildren, there was no need to have this confrontation with the United States. But it was so close. So some events affect us all. Here's number 4. We're all affected by our results, whatever they've been, the results of our errors or the results of our disciplines. Now here's what's so staggering about being a human being. It's possible immediately upon decision to start a new program of changing results. If you're headed in a certain direction and it looks like in 5 years you're going to wind up here, and you take a look at that in 5 years and you say, yes, it looks like what I'm doing right now, if I continue doing what I'm doing now, it looks like in 5 years I will wind up here. Let's say that suddenly, on careful consideration, you decide that's not a very good place. That's not a very exciting place to arrive. Is it possible as a human being to change your destination point 5 years from now? And the answer is yes. See, that is so extraordinary. No other life form can do that. Pick a different destination in 5 years. And start making plans and learn the skills and accept the disciplines and the teaching and the training and the consistency of effort, and just start going in a new direction. And in 5 years from now, wind up at a totally different place than where it was assumed you were going to arrive with the old plans. Only human beings have this extraordinary ability to change the outcome, to pick a new direction and go that way, to pick a more certain place to go and read the books and attend the classes and develop the disciplines and find the people and do the business, whatever, that takes you to that new destination. So we're affected by that. Next, we're affected by knowledge. Whatever you know has brought you to where you are. What you've missed in the past, right? At this particular moment, you could have arrived at a much better place if you hadn't missed what you missed in the past. But now knowledge can turn it all around. Knowledge can start us on a new track. Knowledge can help us not only to review the past, but to peer into the future and say, would it be possible to have a more unique design for the future than what I've had in the past? And the answer to all of that is yes. So these 5 things primarily were affected by it. No, here's the 5th one. Environment, events, results, knowledge. And here's number 5, because we're going to do our goals workshop. We're affected by our dreams. Our ability to see the future and give it design. Things, places, people, career, fortune, whatever might become important to you for the balance of your life, or especially over the next 10 years. It's possible to reach into the future personally. Now, most of the time we don't do it. Here's why we don't really reach into the future. Here's why we don't really reach into the future. We're trapped either by regret of the past or the routine of the present. So busy with the routine of the present, we don't give much thought to designing the future. Or trapped by the past with regrets of past losses and past failures and past mistakes, and we relive it over and over again, not to the benefit of changing it for the future, but just because, we feel that our lives have been less than favorable simply because of all the things that's happened to us in the past. But here's the real key, is to spend some time, and usually we don't do it until someone comes by and offers the suggestion. That's why meeting the right person at the right time, attending the right class, listening to the right sermon, having a conversation with the right person sometimes can totally change the direction of your life. And you're never the same after that personal contact, or sitting in that class, or reading that book, or coming face to face with someone who says, hey, our lives are not that good, what could we do to change? And that very conversation starts this whole process. Wow, I've arrived at a fairly poor place. How could I change all of that for the future? And that is all possible. And this point of contact, maybe today, will help change all of that and give some of you a new glimpse of some of the possibilities. We talked a little bit earlier about the possibilities and believing that the possibilities were possible for you, and then going to work and make them happen. But let's talk now about setting goals and see if we can't make this really meaningful. Here's the next key. Make sure that the greatest pull on you is the pull of the future. Not the pull of the past that keeps taking you back. Not the pull of gravity like the present that just keeps you sort of stuck where you are. But we want to make sure that the greatest influence and pull on us is the pull of the future. If you have powerful goals well designed, and plenty of them, to stir your imagination, here's what they will do. Goals become like a magnet. And the bigger they are, and the stronger they are, and the longer the list, and the more things you'd like to acquire during the course of your lifetime, the stronger they pull. And here's the other advantage in setting goals, so that these goals begin to pull you in that forward future direction. They pull you through all kinds of downtime, all kinds of nighttime experiences, all kinds of winters. You can much more easily survive the next crisis, the next winter of your life, if you have well set goals, finely tuned, places you want to go, things you want to do, people you want to meet, skills you want to develop, fortune you want to make, benevolence you want to engage in. If all of that becomes powerful and clear and you're on your way, I promise you, no matter what happens, those goals will pull you through. You won't be lost in the middle because you'll be able to see beyond. So with that in mind, let's now engage in this little session. It may be one of the most important for the weekend, designing the next 10 years. I want you to take a fresh piece of paper, or at least put a title up on one page and call it Goals Workshop. And in this Goals Workshop, I'm going to ask a series of questions, and I want you to write down the question first and then do the exercise. Okay? Write down the question first and then do the exercise. If you're ready to go, say, let's go. Here's number one. I want you to list 5 things you've already accomplished that you're proud of. Make a list of 5 things you've already accomplished that you're proud of. Because all of us have set goals, maybe haphazardly, maybe spasmodically. Even when we were kids, we wished for something, worked hard, and sure enough, we got it. List 5 achievements, 5 goals that you've reached in the past already that you're proud of. If you won a gold medal at the Olympics, that would be a good one to put on there. Whatever you've accomplished, just a list of 5 things. This is just a little review that, we're not sitting in a very bad place. We've all accomplished some things. Some of us, a lot of things. When you're working with children, this is a good exercise to start with. What have you already accomplished that you're proud of? In this little country town in Idaho, I graduated third in my class in high school. And I'm going to another class reunion in September. I graduated in 1949, third in my class. I was pretty proud of that, because I wasn't the smartest kid in the world. But we're called the 49ers, Idaho 49ers, graduated in 1949. It'll be interesting, right? Another class reunion come September. Some of my classmates are still there in this little farm community, farmers, you know, bankers, real estate people. It's a great group. 5 things you've already accomplished that you're proud of. Wish we had time here to go over everybody's list of 5. I'm sure some of you would be really impressed. Five things, 5 achievements. So this list of 5 now proves, right, that you already know how to set goals. Maybe not as intensely as we're going to work on now, but you've already done it. You've already said, hey, this is it for me, I'm going for it, and sure enough, you did. Okay, here's what's next now. I want you to make a list. What are the 50 most important things you can think of that you want to accomplish and have in the next 10 years? So just put at the top of this now, my 10-year goals, and I want you to make a list of at least 50 items. Little things, big things, and it doesn't matter what they are. Now this list does not mean the list of the things you think you can acquire. This is a list of the things you want. Just let your mind run free. A list of 50 items that would really do it for you in the next 10 years. If you had this, if you went to these places and met these people, and if you had these skills and these investments, education for your children, all the rest of it. So I want you to take the time now. And I want you to go right down the page, not side by side on your goals, right down the page, because we're going to do something with this list a little later. Right down the page, 50 items.